Hello there, good night to you all. So, since I'm kinda having damn insomnia, so I decided to watch a little anime trying to get the sleep come, but with no avail. However, when I was browsing for something to watch, I found that the Arata Kangatari episode 4 already was out, and so I watched it. And now, like always, I will present you my small review on it. So, this episode was quite good, and it picks up when the last one ended, when the two brothers called Kanate and Ginshi are just ended to be captured by the tubes of Suga, the warden of Gatoya, and then he forced them to fight each other like a gladiator spectacle. Uh, but for his own personal amusement. And Kanate kinda decides to let Ginshi live because the warden promised that the one that survived the fight will be free. And Kanate attacks Ginshi seriously and forces him to fight and inflicts him a blow. At the same time, we see Arata and Kotola running through Gatoya and trying to reach the place for where Kanati and Ginshi were sent. Uh, in that uh, trip, let's say in that way, I don't recall the correct word, they found Osome. It's the female that give one to, I guess, three times give information to Arata and Kotoa about Gatoya, and they eventually reach the place where they testify the end of the fight between Kanati and Ginshi, and Ginshi won. However, when Kanate was down, the warden kinda grabs Ginshi and promptly condemns him to death because he committed a murder right in front of the warden. Then Arata intervenes and defies Sutsuga, the warden, and kinda saves Ginshi from death. And in the end, after he struggled with several tubes, uh, the warden he is able to activate his Ayagami, and a great ball of light involves him destroying all the tubes that are approaching or trying to attack him. And in the last attack, he is able to make the warden reveals himself, and after all, the warden is a old man, um, and it's also a show and a guardian of the Ayagami called Saniwa. Uh, that means the sword of justice in that parallel world. Because again, in this episode, we don't see nothing about the errata of that world that came to ours. It's all occurrences that are happening to the errata of our own world in that parallel world, both in this episode and in the last one. So then he sees that the warden is wounded by a dark sword and he tries to release him from that. And apparently he kinda peeks inside the memory of the warden, and apparently the warden was quite a rightful guy, a defender of justice, and he was kinda betrayed by a friend, like in some way Arata was in his or in our world, and that made him a guy that distrusts mankind, that distrusts friendship, and became a bitter guy, a guy that was ruled by hate, and that hate kind of changed his Ayagami to a dark sword. Uh, and after Arata sees what happened in the warden's past, he tries to free him from that dark soul that is in his chest. Um, and he confronts his inner demons. Especially, he has some flashback about the guy that is bullying him on our world, and that the guy that kind of betrayed his friendship, but he still decides that he wants to give a change to that guy that betrayed him and still wants to continue believing in friendship and so on. So through that he is able to free the warden and pull out that dark sword that was in his chest. Then the warden kinda thanks Arata for what he did and recognized that probably he was waiting for someone like him, and he tells him the name of his Ayagami, that is Saniwa, the sword of justice, and he submits to Arata as a fellow show, and kinda the power of that Ayagami became also part of the Ayagami of Arata, and then he changes the island and so on. All the prisoners that were taken on in the reckonings and so on also appears to be alive, and the island of Gatoy returns to be the island it was in the past. At the same time, we see Kanagi. It's one of the Chinsho that betrayed the princess, and he is going to the island. And from afar, he sees all changing. He sees a great light engulfing all the island and changing and so on. Then he disembarks on the island and he interrogates the prisoner, and the prisoner tells him that if he is searching for the recent prisoner, he is in the lower part of the prison with the warden. And when Kanagi tries to go there, kinda the spirit of Tsutsuga appears, and Kanagi replies that I'll be there to submit to that guy, and Tsutsuga says that the sword or the Ayagami that Arata has is the sword of origins, and that eventually that sword, the goal of the one that possessed that sword is to submit all other swords and all other powers and contain them inside that Ayagami, thus becoming the sword of the ruler of that world. And that kind of explains why in the last episode the princess also appeared to Arata and asks him to meet her in the capital, probably because she wants to submit to Arata, and his final energy will be also merged inside that sword, and apparently, I guess that for the rebellion to end, Arata needs to defeat all the 12 Shinsho. This is kind of interesting because it kind of reminds the 12 Zodiac signs in some way. And this sword, Saniwa, the sword of justice, kind of can be a comparison can be made with one that at some time was considered the 13 sigma of zodiac kind, called of Yuskus. So it's kind of interesting. I think that it's good to go because in any case, Arata, in the end, he leaves the island in a boat with Kotoa and Kanate and Ginshi, and I guess they will try to reach the capital, but most likely the other Shinsho will pursue him, and in the process, maybe they will eventually defeat them. So, to Arata gain control over that Ayagami's powers, he essentially needs to defeat the Older and forces the Older to submit to him, and thus merging the Ayagami that Shinsho hold and even the life force of him into or inside that sword, because apparently the sword of origins, I guess it's the first Ayagami that ever existed, and all others are born in some way from that soul sword. Apparently, the goal now is to again all become one once more, and this older will eventually rise up to become the king of this world. So, this is my review for Arata Kangatari episode 4. Hope you enjoyed. Stay well. Peace. Good night. See you soon.